Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Monday Nights with Naba and Kaba. My name is Tony Adams. I'm the Vice President of the Kansas Auto Body Association. And on behalf of the Kansas Association, we'd like to welcome all of you to tonight's event. It's going to be a great one that we've got lined up for you. As a reminder, everybody is in and muted, so be sure and use the chat function and send in all your questions so that my buddy James and I can get those sent back to the guys that are presenting. And with that, I'd like to introduce my friend James with Nebraska Auto Body Association.
Thanks, Tony. And again, I want to thank everybody from the NABA for taking the time out of your evening for the cocktail hour here that we're calling her. We got our buddies from Woodhouse Parts Direct. They are going to answer all questions parts procurement tonight. So sit back, relax, and we'll kick it over to those guys and take it away, Mike.
All right, welcome everybody to OEM Parts Procurement and Shop Profitability 2020. My name is Mike Merrifield, and I've been with Woodhouse Auto Family for over 10 years now. I was born and raised actually in Kansas. My first job was a parts delivery driver. I was exposed to the industry there. I worked at a company called Seidels. I don't know maybe if anyone of you have ever heard of that before. But I was a parts delivery driver. I worked my way up to the counter. And then we also did things such as auto body supply. So I got to experience things like mixing paint and selling auto parts and auto body supply. So that gave me a good foundation, I believe, to kind of talk about some of the topics tonight. I came to Woodhouse in 2009. I had an opportunity to actually build a brand new wholesale business. I worked for a company called Russwood in Lincoln, Nebraska, and during the Chrysler bankruptcy, what happened was Russwood actually lost their franchise agreement. So I had lots of customers at that time, and I had an opportunity to make a few choices. And what I did was I actually landed on Woodhouse. So we started that business in 2009, had one truck, one person, and about 10 customers. Our current operation today, we have 41 trucks. Our staff is roughly 110 people. We have thousands of customers, and we operate out of 5 states. Right now, we represent 18 brands, and 15 of those are actually outside the Woodhouse Auto Family, but we do have quite a few manufacturer lines that we take care of. So tonight, we're going to do maybe something a little bit different. I'll tell you, this is a format that I'm probably not 100% good with. I'd much rather for us all to be in one big room tonight, hashing out our differences. But in order to maybe make things a little more interactive, what we're going to do is use a website called Kahoot.it. So what I want you to do right now is I want everybody to pull out their phones and go on the web browser on their phone and go to Kahoot.it. That's Kahoot.it, and we're going to answer a few questions here tonight. So go ahead and go to Kahoot.it and enter the game pin. So we'll go ahead and do that and get some people involved here and ask a few questions. So those who say that the science is not paying attention to it, but this isn't a lack of compassion. I want people to get vaccine. I want to be able to avoid it. So it looks like a few people are entering the room. We got looks like about 6, 7 right now entering the Kahoot.it. If anyone has any questions at all, just please enter them in the chat box. But we should be able to answer a few questions here tonight and get a real-time reaction to what we're going to be speaking to. So right now, it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 right now entering the Kahoot screen. The game pin is actually 2633748. So go ahead and enter that in the web browser at a Kahoot.it on your phone. We'll give it a few more minutes here and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll probably play a little bit of music here to get you all pumped up tonight. Monday night. All right, we'll give it just a few more minutes here, get the rest of the people entered into the game, and we'll go ahead and ask a few questions. All right, looks like we got Space Bat, we got Jolly Lion, welcome Witty Yak, bunch of different people entering this chat here tonight. All right, let's go ahead and get started here with our first question of the night. So first question of tonight, it's a poll question. You are from which auto body association? Let's go ahead and answer that question. Which auto body association are you from tonight? It's a little warm up, get us used to how this is all going to work. Let's go ahead and answer those questions. Which auto body association are you from tonight? So it looks like right now we got about 14 answers, 15 answers. They're coming in like hotcakes right now. We'll give this just a few more seconds, about 30 seconds left. Like I said, it's Kahoot.it. The game pin is 263-3748. 20 seconds left. Go ahead and get your answers in. Ten seconds left. Looks like right now we got about 20 different answers coming in. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the results here. 3, 2, 1. And let's see the results of those questions here. So tonight we got 10 people, it looks like, from Kansas. We got 8 from Nebraska. So pretty good mix right now as far as people answering the questions. So good to hear. Let's go ahead and move forward to the next question. All right, now we got a quiz. This question says, what artist was Tony Adams going to have to sing if no questions came up during the Tim Ronak presentation? So we got Bee Gees, we got Ariana Grande, which I'd love to hear that, Motley Crue, or Celine Dion. So what's your answers, everybody? Go ahead and enter them into your phone. Bee Gees, Ariana Grande, Motley Crue, or Celine Dion. All right, I think people are getting the hang of it now. We got well over 20 answers, so good to see. At the end of this, if we're all really lucky, Tony might sing one of these artists for us. About 15 seconds left. Get your answers in. Five seconds left. 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's see what the results are. Wow, we have got quite a display of answers here. Motley Crue, though, is the correct answer. Looks like 11 of you got that right. Congratulations. All right, now we're going to talk about a poll, maybe a little more parts related question. My shop uses mainly blank for parts procurement. First is phone calls, online portals, fax, email, or quantum teleportation. Anybody using that today? I think that would also cover probably the hope and pray piece. Let's go ahead and see what we get for answers here. Phone calls, online portals, fax, email, or quantum teleportation, AKA beam me up, Scotty. My shop uses mainly blank for parts procurement. Mainly what? What do you use every day? 15 seconds left. We'll go ahead and wait just a little bit longer here and see what our answers are. This is really going to speak to what we're going to talk about tonight, is how are you getting parts into your shop? All right, so the answer is online portals, Parts Trader, Collision Link, etc. 3 of you are still using phone calls, and it looks like 3 are still using fax or emails. So there is a multitude of different ways that you can go ahead and get parts into your shop. I think it's important to see what is that working like for you and what is the best way to do it. let's go ahead and move forward now to the next question. Well, it looks like, okay, we're going to move forward with the actual PowerPoint here. So what are our training objectives? All right, as you can see, there are many different ways to order your parts. We're going to discuss those in various ways with a few other topics. This is all from the OEM parts perspective. All right, one thing to mention is COVID is here, it's not permanent, and this presentation is not based on parts procurement during a pandemic. We got to look forward and see what things are going to look like for us in a world where we got to get parts efficiently in order to move cars through the repair process. I think one thing to keep in mind right now is, like GM, for instance, is putting restrictions on certain part numbers. Despite all of that, the supply chain has improved dramatically. All right. For instance, as a vendor, we now receive a truck from each manufacturer daily. If you rewind 20 years ago, we may get a truck only once a week. And looking at this certain situation with what we got with parts right now and the way that body shops order parts, a lot of them are still ordering parts 1 to 2 weeks out. All right, I think that there's a situation where they feel like maybe parts aren't available quite like they should be, and they have to order parts out in such a long distance. But what we're going to talk about tonight is the difference between ordering parts out and maybe blueprinting a car and looking at a complete order, as opposed to maybe some of the estimating and the ordering systems that we have today, such as Snapshot, those type of items. So next up, we're going to talk about parts ordering platforms. All right. There's many different ways you can buy parts and where we sell them. We're going to cover tonight just a few of which ones we like and why. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is list price. This is one of the most concerning issues in the industry from our perspective and how it impacts all of us. All right. Fourth, we're going to talk about blueprinting, why it would be important to your parts supplier. So that's probably a phrase that you guys have seen many, many times, blueprinting a car, but how does that fit in to the parts vendor and how parts get into the back of your shop? And then the fifth thing we're going to talk about tonight is the salesperson perspective. You're going to hear from one of our inside parts advisors who grew up in the industry. He's been around for over 35 years with 26 years of OE experience. Jeff will provide us with some perspective on what it's like being a parts advisor in this day and age and what we can do to help the procurement process. All right, first up, supply chain. Okay, we spoke to this just a little bit, and I will tell you that 20 years, 2000 to 2020, how has it worked, and why is partnering with your suppliers more important now than ever? Like I said, 20 years ago, manufacturers would receive 1 truck a week. Shop would set their order dates based off of that information due to the idea that parts may not show up in time. Despite all these advancements in the way parts can move in today's market, we actually still see this practice still taking place every day. We frequently hear from shops that parts are the largest unknown in the entire process. Developing a relationship with your vendor will help create better communication and expectations. Vendors should be part of your repair plan and process. Partnering can lead to more accurate expectation on both sides of the parts procurement relationship. We can become familiar with your expectation and processes, and you can do the same with ours. Communication is improved and unknowns become known. Letting us know simple things like promise date, our freight charge is going to be okay, and even such thing as pictures will help us as much as they help you in identifying the correct parts for the job. Next up is workflow. All right, time and staff cost money. It's no different on our side at all. All right, and proper expectations and efficiencies are key to our success. In businesses, success is measured in profit. Efficient ordering and delivery of your parts can be the difference in a successful job, or in the larger picture, a successful shop. And then lastly, we're going to talk about insurance for a moment. All right, we made it to slide 5 tonight before we call a spade a spade. Insurance, to use a Star Wars reference, is the dark side. It's been there, and the disturbance in the force is becoming stronger. There's been so many improvements in the supply chain over the years and how you can get parts into your shop so much easier, but yet we have this force on the outside that keeps putting pressure on that way that we get parts from point A to point B that always isn't in the best interest of both us as the parts vendor or you in the body shop. All right. You know, insurance companies, it can take away at times from our teams. It requires the comparison of used, aftermarket. Now, what are opt OE parts? This problem that we're talking about tonight is actually magnified on our side. You know, it forces our sales team to compete countless quotes from time to time. We are consumed with price matching parts. And I want to talk about price matching parts for a minute and that phrase. And some of you that know me, I've been saying this for a while. Price matching parts is nothing more than an insurance discount. That's what we should call it. I mean, in the last 10 years of Woodhouse and us moving along and growing our business, I don't know that we've actually price matched anything. What I can tell you is that OEM parts come through our business, and then what ends up happening is we drive down OEM pricing and we give the insurance company a discount. So moving forward, you know, let's talk about ordering platforms for a minute. So ordering parts has remained constant, but how body shops and vendors communicate has changed dramatically. Before we take a look at the various ways your place and parts orders occur with us, let's see, we got a few more questions. So let's go ahead back to Kahoot and let's have a few more questions. So we're gonna go ahead and load that up, and you should see Kahoot on your phone here. And we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the next question. So hopefully everybody's still with us here. So we're gonna have a poll question. What is the percentage of OEM parts are used on repairs in your shop? So go ahead and answer that question. What percentage of OEM parts are used on repairs in your shop? So let's give just a kind of a quick survey of that. What percentage of repair parts are used? Looks like we got 12 answers right now. I will say that if you guys do get logged off or whatever for reason, you just go back to kahoot.it and the game pin is 2633748. So that's if you do get logged off for whatever reason, you can just log back in and pick up right where we end. So we got 13 answers right now. We got about 18, 19 seconds left. So what is the percentage of OEM parts that are used in repairs in your shop? Under 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75%, or 75 to 100%. About 3 seconds left here. All right, look at that. 75 to 100% is the percentage of OEM parts used on repairs in your shop. So that is quite a number. It'd be interesting to see if we asked that question maybe 5 years ago, what would that look like? Or maybe 10 years ago. How has that changed over time? And also how that has changed in regards to the technology that vehicles have in this day and age. I mean, cars are getting more complicated. There are safety items to consider, and we have to take all that into account in order to pick the correct parts in order to fix the repair of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and ask another question. What percentage of customers care about OEM parts usage in the repair of their vehicle? All right, so we answered the question of what parts are used. Now let's talk about what do customers care about? You know, if I have a car and I'm bringing it into a body shop and I just simply need the car repaired, do I care that OEM parts are used on the vehicle? I think this is a question that can be asked in regards of maybe leased vehicles and the importance of OEM parts and being put on a vehicle. So you have pressure of leased vehicles, you have how complicated cars are in this day and age. So, you know, what percentage of my customers care about OEM part usage in the repair of vehicles? Got about 15 seconds left here. it'll be interesting to see if we got 75 to 100% as opposed to what we saw before. All right, so we got a little bit of a difference there. So now we show 9 actual people with 75 to 100%. So it's interesting that that's not the same number as what we saw before. So, ordering parts has remained constant, but how body shops and vendors communicate has changed dramatically. Before we take a look at the various ways, we need to move forward and see where we're at with the next piece. All right, so let's talk a little bit about ordering platforms and where we have evolved in this day and age. So, I don't feel old, but ask my kids, I'm pretty old. I do remember a time when there was no cell phones, we had 13 channels, and Dukes of Hazzard was must-see TV. So maybe those kids are right, I don't know, but I will tell you, moving forward with the way we order parts today, it's much different than it used to be. So let's talk about phones for a second, all right? From our perspective, phone calls are great for nothing. There's no way to validate, prove, or dispute information. There are times where this thing is just a blood-sucking necessary evil, all right? Phone calls can take the place of maybe an inadequate repair process, okay? Most of the time, a phone call feels like maybe a quick or easy method of communication, but then it can also lead to more questions than answers. It's the most difficult method for us to communicate as part of our side as the parts vendor. I mean, we have a very difficult time handling phones and how to manage them. I'll give you just a couple examples of that. So our call center right now, we have roughly 12 people at any given time on the phones, all right? And I will walk through our call center and I will hear some of the communication and the conversations happening. And what we'll find is maybe there's a conversation being had with the back side of a body shop in the production, and they're asking, hey, when are these parts going to be here? What's going on with them? What are we doing? Are we getting them? Are we not getting them? All of those type of things. And then only several minutes later will go by and the exact same phone call will occur on the front side of the body shop. And we may have those with the estimators. And guess what? They're asking the same questions. What are we doing with these parts? When are we getting them? What's going on with them? Another example is in this day and age, in 2020, I still hear VIN numbers being transcribed over the phone. I think a VIN number has like 16 digits to it. So that's 16 opportunities for a mistake. And if we get one digit wrong, are you guys going to get the correct part number? I don't believe you are. So phones are not something we're a fan as. So moving forward, fax and email, that's something that came along a little bit later. It does allow for some good quality control. It allows for verification, confirmation. It's more efficient than phones, but the difference is with an email is it is a one-sided conversation between one person on your side and one person on our side. So what it does is it doesn't paint the whole picture to everybody involved in the repairs process. The other thing that we have to keep in mind is for our side and the way that we get orders coming in, it provides lots of different ways that we have to monitor the order process, whether it be fax, email, we have Skype as well, and then of course you add phone calls into the mix. Number 3 is online portals. This allows for an open information flow from all parties. Multiple people from both sides of the sale can access and view the entire dialogue. So this results in an interactive, efficient communication. All right, so you can see both the back side of your business and the front side of your business and maybe see what exactly is going on with the parts orders. When are these parts going to get there? What kind of parts are we going to use? And what are we going to do to move forward with the repair process? The problem with this today is insurance now has too much access to information and they are requiring processes that interfere with efficiencies, both yours and ours. So I want to touch on that for just a minute. You just heard me talk about phone calls and how phone calls are a necessary evil. But when we interject someone in the middle of our process between the parts vendor and the body shop, it creates uncertainty. We drive things based off of price and discounts, okay? What that does in turn is creates uncertainty on what parts you're gonna get. And guess what everyone wants to do? They wanna pick up the phone and call. So we're caught in this perpetual circle here, okay? We're just caught in a perpetual circle of using phones to try to get answers to questions that we don't quite know for sure what direction we're going towards. And then we're still trying to use online portals in order to make the order occur. So I think there's ways that we can improve upon that, and it helps us for everybody involved. So we're going to dive in just a little bit to, online portals. There's actually $12 billion in online auto parts sales for 2020. What's going on in COVID, and it's going to be here to stay. All right. We're going to talk about a few of those. First off, of course, is Collision Link and Repair Link. It's the most robust of all the OEM ordering systems, and it is the one that we prefer over everybody else. Okay. Repair Link, if many of you may or may not have heard of that before, Repair Link is the OE connection software that is catered towards independent service shops. Everybody here is welcome to get a Repair Link login. And what you're going to find is Repair Link can paint the picture for you to get dialogue and actually diagrams for parts. So that is something that is different than a Collision Link. You can log on to Repair Link, you can get parts diagrams, the same diagrams as us as the OEM vendor uses, but keep in mind, it does not supply collision part diagrams. Don't ask me why, that's just the way that they've originated that, but I think it is a good tool that everybody here can use if you want to drill into undercar, suspension parts, things of that nature. Next one we want to talk about is OPS Tracks. So OPS Tracks is something that originated out of Texas. One thing to OPS Tracks, and to their credit, is they're the originator of upfront pricing. So many of you maybe have experienced this on your side. OPS Tracks actually provided an upfront price, so you could click on a box, you know your agreed upon price, and you can simply just order the parts from the vendor. So what it does is it creates that lack of quoting back and forth. It can really speed up the parts process. All right. Next up, we got to talk about Parts Trader. It's my most disliked yet popular platform. One thing that many people don't know is actually we take care of all the Parts Trader bids and everything that's regarding Parts Trader inside a Collision Link. You know why we do that? It's because at times it can be so incredibly inefficient that the only way that it can be cost effective for us as the vendor is it had to work inside a Collision Link. Otherwise, the juice simply wouldn't have been worth the squeeze. So, I mean, it just creates an enormous amount of time for us. Without it being integrated with Collision Link, it would probably have to double our manpower just to get everything done. Moving forward with CCC, it's integrated into the shop management system. It's something that I personally am not really familiar with. I know that there's some companies like Honda, maybe some other companies that require that. I know that it's nice that you can create a PO and it stays right inside your shop management system and you can send the order out of it. But what I've heard, and maybe there's some comments that can be made in the chat box, that there can be some inefficiencies regarding returns and just overall the way that the parts platform works. Also, we have things like APU solutions, and then I think CCC has their competitive product as well, that it can go out and find parts such as a reman, refinish, salvaged, and used, etc. So, if we wanted to create the most inefficient parts distribution system possible, right now there are over 30 different mainstream online portals that we can sell parts on. There's 30 of them right now. So, I mean, I just listed 4 of them. Just think, there's 26 more that we can choose from in order to get a piece of the pie when it comes from getting parts from point A to point B. I mean, many of these are just plagued with poor customer service. They got inaccurate information. Some of them actually have counterfeit parts, and you know, you talk about things like cores and returns also can be very, very complicated in that process. So it's just something to keep in mind. You know, back to the parts trader thing real quick before we move forward, is a lot of those quotes that we see inside parts trader, those are actually robo quotes. All right, so what happens is when you send that quote out to the world, what it does is it automates a system where you get a response back that's simply just a computer just spitting back out a price and availability of the part. I would love to say that the way that we work as the OEM provider, that it's just an automatic robo response, but there's a whole lot of work that goes in to providing an estimate, and we're going to talk about some of these right now. You know, we don't have time to dive into a bunch of different of the programs tonight, but what we are going to talk about is OE Connection, and kind of go through and kind of for you to see what we see and how maybe we arrive to some of the answers that we do. So let's go ahead and dive into Collision Link. And what you're looking on your screen here is actually a parts trader quote request inside Collision Link that we randomly picked this afternoon. All right. So as you can see on your screen, this parts trader quote request, if you look at the right side, this one actually was expiring in 37 minutes. So we had 37 minutes to get everything going like we wanted to respond to actually take care of the response. The parts trader quote request and the way that it works, it's actually broken down into several different categories, and we can kind of go through that now. So this is the top part of the quote request. This is where parts come into us, and we have to differentiate those and discover what is needed and what is not needed, and then actually have a response back to you guys in order to make that work. So if we move forward to the next slide, what we can see is this is going to be now the second part of the quote request. All right. So as you can see in here, there are quite a few different parts and the way that that it works. And actually, let's move across to the next slide. Let's go move forward to one more slide. I think there we go. All right. So this is part of the quote request that we received from a body shop this afternoon. So this is what we call the upsell opportunities. Okay. So these parts here come in, and as you can see, some of them might be Kappa hoods, they might be aftermarket parts, all these different things. So on this particular job, we had 13 of those. All right. The green check marks prove that they're actually VIN scrubbed, that these were the correct parts that the body shop selected in the estimating process, and they match the VIN of the car. The rest of those, the red X's or the yellow triangles, do not match what is going on with the VIN. So we need to scrub those. We need to see what the reality of the situation is, and we need to find the availability on every single one of these 13 parts that we're talking about. We have to go through and scrub every single one of those, find out what's real, where are these parts at, and how soon can we get these parts, and also the freight that's involved. All right. So you know, this is the reality of the situation. And if you look out to the right here, this is our world. Okay, you're seeing it. All right. We got a big you know, 8% going on with a lot of these parts. Okay, that includes the reimbursement, and that's the reality of the situation that we got to sell these parts. All right. So what we need to do is come up with an agreed upon price that we feel can put us in the best place to win this parts trader quote, and then send the response back to the body shop. So as you can see right here, this is what this is all about. So we got 13 parts here on this quote, and we need to figure out a way, along with me and I don't know, maybe 50 other vendors, on how we are the best position and the best people to get these parts for this job.
Hey, Mike, this is Tony.
So let's move forward to the next slide. Okay, so now this is the remaining parts here. So the first slide you saw were upsell opportunities and the amount of aftermarket parts that that you had there on the screen.
Hey,
so,
Mike.
Mike,
can you hear me?
Looking at that, what we got to do is take a look at these OEM parts, and then we got to figure out a way to sell those as well.
Merrifield. Can you hear me?
The OEM parts that are on your screen are all ones that were actually listed as factory parts. And the way that the factory parts come through the estimating system and that are OEM. So with those parts, you can see both. Now we got red X's and we got green check marks. The red X's were also not quoted correctly in the estimating process. We got to go through and we got to vet those and take care of all that. And then look and see what is the correct part numbers and then enter them back in the system to create the quote request for the customer. Also, you can see off to the right side, those are the selling prices that we put into the parts trader system, and then we're sending back to the customer. So if anyone has any questions about this right now, go ahead and please enter them in the chat box, and I think we will circle back to those and answer those as time goes on. So let's go ahead and move forward.
I think maybe we're having screen difficulties.
Yeah. Looks like we may be having screen difficulties here, so we'll just kind of pause for a second.
Right here.
They don't need to see that. Yeah, that screen, yeah. Yeah, they need to, they need to see the screen that's on there right now. You should see the OE connection, just screenshots. And that's what you need to see there. So hopefully everybody can see that. But keep in mind, we can ask lots of questions with the chat box and get things taken care of from there. So let's move forward now and talk about list price. All the questions we will go through at the end, and we can definitely ask those as well. All right, so now we're going to talk about list price. This is OEM pricing, the gold standard in our industry, and then comparing it against a prevailing competitive price. Okay, so what does prevailing competitive price mean? I mean, what is that all about? What is that phrase? I mean, basically what it is comparing an OEM price and then using it to drive the OEM price down. You know, these parts that are out there in the marketplace, are these parts really readily available? What is the quality of them? Do they fit the proper OEM procedure to fix the car to begin with? I mean, I think those are all questions we need to ask ourselves to understand that we are taking an OEM price and we are continuing to drive that down to, in essence, like I talked about before, give the insurance company a discount. You know, list price, you know, a shop cannot save their way to profitability. All right. List pricing has changed considerably over the last few years. All right. I think the OEMs have figured out that 100% of zero is still zero. Okay. So they're allowing us to play this game. All right. And this game affects your profit. It affects our profit. The problem is that insurance companies are writing the rules of the game, and these rules really only benefit them. All right. One thing to keep in mind in this is, you know, to counter this thing where we're giving all these insurance discounts and we're driving down the pricing of OEM parts. What we're finding is OEMs are actually experiencing, they're doing price gouging themselves, right? I mean, that is why a patented Ford Focus headlight can cost several $1,000s, because they got to figure out a way to counter this as well. I mean, they have a bottom line and they have to be profitable along with the rest of us. So you're seeing a counterbalance here of some OEM parts just going crazy up in value, and then to counter that, you're seeing rebates on parts that really maybe at times shouldn't be there. Okay, so let's talk about list price for a minute and just run through some scenarios here. And these are scenarios that you guys are working with every day, so I don't want to dive deeply into them. But I think the one thing that we all got to remember is we don't put discounts in the bank, you put profit in the bank. So we're going to walk through just a few of these just real quickly. OEM list price, top left corner, all right? We're just going with a base 30% off. Okay, list price $382, 30% off. You put $114.74 in the bank. Okay, let's talk about used for a minute. So used, there is no list price. So then because of the case that there is no list price, what do you got to do? You got to go out to the insurance or the person that's paying for your bill, and you got to agree upon a markup. So that markup is 25%. Okay, so the cost on that particular part was $225, marked it up 25%, and you see a profit of $56.25. Now let's move over and talk about a price matching scenario involving a used part. Okay, same scenarios all take place, all right? In that scenario, it cost $196.88. You're putting 84 bucks in the bank, all right? So what did we just do there? We gave the insurance company a discount. That's what we did. Now look at aftermarket parts, all right? We love to talk discounts these days. Discounts, 30%, 35%, on and on and on. So let's talk about 50% for a moment, okay? So in this scenario, aftermarket parts, you're getting 50% off, half price, you're putting 100 bucks in the bank, all right? You know, if you're me, I would probably rather put $114 in the bank, for sure. And then in the last scenario we'll talk about just for a minute is writing sheets with tons of aftermarket prices on it. We're going to give the insurance company a discount, and we're going to profit 60 bucks for that. All right, who's benefiting from this? Right? I don't believe it's neither the body shop nor the vendor. Okay, now let's bring it all together here for a minute and talk about total job costing. Now this is something that you guys maybe have experienced at 20 groups or in different scenarios. I'm far from an expert on it, but I think it is important just to you know, to point out here. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down into five easy areas that you can just talk about on your screen. So the first is profit. Second is overhead costs, the cost of a stall, direct cost, and then the true cost of labor. All right. So before we get started, are we going to do a few more questions?
Just a couple more.
Couple more Kahoot questions, because I know everybody's loving that right now. So go ahead and get your phone back and let's talk about maybe a few questions as regarding the topic that we're on right now. So let's go ahead and fire Kahoot back up again. All right, so there's Kahoot on your screen. Keep in mind it's Kahoot, KAHOOT.IT, and the PIN number is 2633748. Okay? It's found in the bottom right corner on your screen. So we'll go ahead and ask the next question. So it's a poll question, all right? Insurance company decisions are made with whose best interest in mind? All right? Complicated question. This is the point where we're at seeing if everyone's awake still. The insurance company decisions are made with whose best interest in mind? All right, we got about 30 seconds left. Now, just everybody keep in mind, we're gonna have maybe lots of questions through this, so go ahead and enter those in the chat box, and we will try to get through those as quickly as possible as time goes on. About 20 seconds left. This might give Rodas an opportunity to get up and get another drink.
Thank you.
It's like we got about 20 answers right now coming in. That's Kahoot.IT. Insurance companies' decisions are made with whose best interest in mind? All right, let's go ahead and go to the answer. Wow. Shockingly, 18 people think that it's their own interests are in mind. I think it'd be very difficult for me to argue that fact. And the one gentleman, I love you to death, that chose body shop owners, I admire your optimism. Thank you so much for that.
Somebody hit the wrong button.
All right, now we got an actual hot topic here. Now keep in mind, these are all anonymous. We don't know who's answering and who's not answering. My shop's door labor rate is blank. Under 50 bucks an hour, 50 to 55, 55 to 60, or is it over 60 bucks an hour? Maybe it's 70 bucks an hour. I hope so. Maybe it's 80 bucks an hour. So we'll just give that a few more time for everybody to answer their questions. About 20 seconds left. 10 more seconds here. My shop's door labor rate is question mark. All right, so there's your answers. All right. So we've got a few people that are only 50 to 55. We got nobody under 50 bucks an hour. Thank God, it is 2020. And it looks like we have a few people over 60 bucks an hour. Definitely applaud those people that are able to get that done. Okay, so let's move forward here and talk a little bit more about total job costing. Okay, so now we're going to break this down, and I want to go through these very quickly because I think there's everything that everyone here tonight should be accustomed to hearing. So profit, I mean, that's why we're all here, right? Woodhouse is in the business to make a profit. Body shops are in the business to make a profit, okay? So you look at the cost of your parts, what you sell them for, the difference is your gross profit percentage. Next up is overhead costs. So things like rent, insurance, all of those things. Those go into overhead costs, right? Anything listed as overhead is an actual sale from somebody else. So maybe all of those can be negotiable for you. That's something that you know, you might look at in your own business. The next thing up is looking at the cost of a stall. So let's just roll through this really quick. So we have the total overhead cost we just talked about, and then we're going to divide that out by the number of stalls you have in your business. In this example, we're using $50,000. We got 8 stalls. That breaks out to 6,200 bucks. You break it down with the operating days, and then of course down to even the hours, comes down out to 39 bucks an hour. It's costing your stall. All right. It's as simple as this. All right. Your stalls cost money. So now let's look at it in terms of the real cost of the stall. Okay, so we just identified how much a stall is sitting idle, but now what about what it could be generating? Okay, what about our labor efficiency ratio? Okay, how much could it really be adding up if you think about what is the potential of the stall as opposed to what the stall costs? So you know, that money costs more when the stall isn't in use. It's about missed opportunities when the stall is not being productive. It's above, in the above example, you know, it totals almost 100 bucks an hour. All right. So how can us as a vendor and you team up to avoid this lost revenue? Okay. I think the answer is a true partnership. Okay. So now that we've identified how much is costing for a car to sit in your shop, inactive and not being worked on, so how much is the real cost of inefficient parts procurement? So first off is time, okay? So a substantial amount of time is being used to disqualify used or aftermarket parts, and then we're creating supplements to correct the problem. Okay, if you remember back to the slide that I showed you, the collision link slide, where it showed those upsell opportunities, I will guarantee you that over 80% of those parts that we saw that said opportunity, we will revisit those at some point in the repair process. The only difference is it's not going to happen in the beginning of the repair process. What will happen is there's going to be a series of disqualifications, a series of questions, a series of going out, maybe getting parts from all over else, figuring out, oh, they're not the right part to fix this car, and then we revisit that upsell opportunity. The only difference is we don't visit it at the very beginning of the parts order. It trickles in. It comes in maybe a day later, maybe 2 days later, and what it does is it can create a supplement. All right. You know, most of these parts that we see in the beginning are turned into supplements, and then we see them at the very beginning of the online order. Okay. A lot of times those parts turn into fire drills. All right. It's a thing that we saw them in the beginning, but then, you know, due to leverage and different things that happen in the process, they turn into a fire drill. So, you know, next is manpower. Okay, similar to your own situation, we've had to add countless personnel to combat the same challenges you have in both pricing and parts, okay? It takes more labor than ever to estimate, order, and get parts to your back door. Back to when I created Woodhouse and we thought, okay, like what was the ideal situation? And listening to customers and creating something different, what we wanted to do was be a partner in the cycle time of parts going through your back door and getting cars out as efficiently and as easily as possible. Now what we're doing is we're getting all of these obstacles that get in our way in order for us to just not have the parts you need, put them on a truck, and get them on your to your back door the next day. I mean, we're fighting through this all the time. So at the end of the day, it's just more labor is required to complete the same amount of work. Okay, lastly, returns. Okay, so returns are growing in our industry. All right, it's just an absolute fact. Returns from everywhere. People that have very good repair plans and processes are returning a lot of parts. People that don't have good repair plans and processes are also returning a whole ton of parts. Okay, just to give you a little glimpse of our operation, we average over $500,000 in returns per month due to not receiving accurate estimates, maybe from the start. It could also very well be our mistakes and we goof something up. But I mean, that number is huge. So I want you to think about that. Well over $500,000 that is pure expense for us. There's no profit being made in a return of a part. Right now, our distribution center in Missouri Valley, Iowa is open 24 hours a day. Okay, it runs 3 shifts. And what we're looking to do there is just to try to make things as efficient as possible for us. And in doing that, we got to figure out a way to get through all these returns. So it's a huge, huge obstacle for us. And most of these returns are due to insurance company shortcuts. Okay, it's not the body shop's fault. That's not the sales guys that's working their butts off in the call center every day. Okay, there's a leverage that's occurring on our business that we're paying the price for. Okay, and it takes time away, and when it takes time away from us, we'd rather be selling parts and being an asset for you. So how do we combat that now? Okay, and we've talked about all these challenges and what's getting in the way of getting parts efficiently out your door. And I think it's important now to talk about blueprinting. And I'm not an expert on blueprinting, okay? And there's lots of different 20 groups and different avenues that you can go to learn about blueprinting. But maybe what we'll do is just put a little bit different perspective on it from a parts angle, okay? So the goal that we established, because those idle stalls are costing you a lot of time, okay? They're costing you a lot of time, they're costing you a lot of money if they're not being worked on. So the goal is to continuously work on the project, okay? So how do we combat that? All right. What we've discovered personally as a parts vendor is doing the groundwork ahead of time puts us both in a much better position. All right. When we do things right from the very beginning, identifying the correct parts, identifying the correct repair procedures, we can all make money. And I believe profit was a bedrock of what we're trying to do. And that speaks to what we're talking about. Okay. I think it's important to partner with your vendor. Okay. Trying to come up with an established relationship with the parts vendor of your choice so that we can, to the best of our abilities and to the best of what we're experiencing in this world of 2020s, that all the parts can be ordered at once. So us as a parts vendor, maybe some of you might be surprised at this, but we would welcome the pressure of a car being completely tore down and having 100% of the parts order for us in order to then order all the parts we have to get them to you the next day. That pressure we would welcome. And that is a different pressure than maybe what we talked about in the beginning with having parts ordered 1 week out, 2 weeks out. Maybe they're being ordered off of an inaccurate estimate. Maybe they're being ordered off of a snapshot estimate, things that are not completely accurate. Guess what that returns, or what that generates? That generates returns, okay? I mean, it absolutely generates a lot of different things, and they're not good for everybody involved. okay? So blueprinting is a way, and I know it's very difficult, but at times, if you think about how to discover all the correct parts in the process, okay, that's going to occur whether it is trickled in through all the processes of getting the car fixed, or it can happen at the very beginning. So just keep in that mind, it's going to happen, okay? We're gonna put the correct parts on the car to fix the vehicle, and we're also going to have to identify those. So keep that in mind in the blueprinting process. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit, about blueprinting. We went through that. So I think one thing that I've heard, at least from our customers, is looking at maybe a perspective from a sales advisor that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up Jeff Heater here, and he's going to walk through kind of a little bit of what the process looks like here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Jeff over. Jeff's got a lot of experience here, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about his perspective.
How's everybody doing tonight? Give you a quick background. My name is Jeff Heater. I've been around a couple of days, 35 years in the business. I started turning wrenches, cut my teeth in a hometown shop in a family business in central Nebraska. So, and then I graduated up, went a little bigger, started working for a chain store, Western Auto America / kind of a business for about 5-6 years, and then decided I wanted to do something a little more. Went to the dealership business, a smaller dealership in Aurora, Nebraska. Worked my way up to a little bigger dealership, and now with Woodhouse for the last 6 years. So 26 years in Ford all by itself. So the biggest thing we want to, when you get to a job from our point of view, we really don't understand what process or what procedure where you're at in the vehicle repair process. The entire process to us is really unknown. We start with little to no information. We know just about as much as you do at that point. We don't know where it's at in your dealership, or in your business, as far as, is it a discovery process? Is it actually in paint? Is it, there's just a lot of things we don't know. And so when we go from there, then we talk about many times initial order is simply a price check. Okay. So dipping the toe in the water makes a tremendous amount of takes a lot of our time. Anything we do once, we do 100 times a day. So it's just not efficient. And the whole thing about it is if we can be efficient for you, that's the best. We can get you your stuff in time. We can get you all your orders. Everything we do that is more efficient on our end makes you more efficient. Therefore, you get vehicles out of the door faster. So next slide, or the next point there is, in order to get a part properly priced, it must be input into the program. Okay. The biggest question we get is, will this price match? We don't know. That's the whole answer. We don't know. There's no crystal ball. There's no magical formula. We can't just come up with that. Now, I can tell you, after all the years in the business that most of us in that room have had in the sales room, we've got a pretty good idea of what's going to price match and what doesn't. We work from there. We give you, the best that we've got for our ideas to tell you what that'll be. But the only way to really do it is to actually get it logged into the system, send it through, and then we check it. Just give you a quick, we send in a manual order and we go ahead and do it, or fax, email, and we do it. Let's say it's a 20-part order, okay? In all honesty, that's probably going to take us 25 to 30 minutes to do in between phone calls or whatever else we do. If you send the same estimate through the system, I can about guarantee you we'll answer you in 10 minutes or less. It's that quick. It's that efficient. In collision link, correct. Sorry. So like I say, and we rarely get the benefit of discovering parts up front. It sometimes feels like you're almost the last resort after all the used aftermarket, any inferior parts, alternatives have been disqualified. So once you go through all of that, like I say, that's just a big time eater. And then what happens at that point is we actually become a hot shop. Okay. So for us to make that work for you, it becomes an issue of, do we have drivers already out on the road? We have everybody out of the warehouse. So we start making calls. We'll call Randy, Daryl, Mike, and Mike. You know, I mean, we've taken them ourselves at the end of the day to try to help keep the shop going. You know, that's just what we want to do for you. But sometimes that just starts to become an impossible process, because sometimes we have just gone through all the options. And then what that does forces us to go outside of our network. We'll try to find it from another dealer. We use our locating capabilities. Well, that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's great that we can have access to all that information and we can go coast to coast. I mean, if somebody's got it and wants to sell it, we're going to get it for you and we'll get it to you. But the problem with some of that is then we start eating into time. And for you, time means money. So what ends up doing there for you is it puts you right on out, you know, further out for your customer. And, you know, everybody in that room, we all take a lot of pride in what we do. Okay. We actually, this is what we live for. We love the fire drills, you know, but what happens is we start to get disappointed, because if we don't have an opportunity to fulfill what you need, then we feel like there's a problem and we start feeling like we let you down. You know, your success is our success. You know, we feel great about everything we do when we help you get it. If it's hot shotted or whatever the case may be, it's a problem. We figured it out. We got it to you. You got the job done. Your customer's happy. We're happy. So when you succeed, we feel great. You know, we do a lot of small talk on the phone. There's a lot of you that talk to us, and you're gonna, you know, you're more than just a customer to us. You know, we start getting into that. You're almost like an interconnected family. You know, we feel great when you're doing things great. We feel terrible when it doesn't go right for you. You know, and to a certain extent, we feel even worse because we feel like we're part of that. You know, and we don't want to be part of a problem. We want to be part of a solution. So you're more than just a business and acquaintance to us. You know, you're our friends, and to a certain extent, we start becoming family. And we're going to do what we can to you to help you get all this done. And you know, we kind of take it personal just a little bit because of that fact. We feel terrible when it doesn't go right. We feel great when it does. But when we can't fulfill what you need to do, that's why we get passionate about what we do in that room. And, you know, when we can do that for you, it just fulfills everything for us. So, you know, we really feel great about it. And we're proud of some of you the way you've built your businesses up. I mean, we've came up through some of this together. Some of you start out a lot smaller. Some of you are really getting big. And, you know, of course we are too. I mean, if you think about what we do all day, I invite you, once COVID's over, come on up to that warehouse. If you get a chance to see what we actually have, I mean, you could get 2 football fields inside there easily, and we still can't get all the parts that we need all the time. But through our network and all of our other stuff, we can accommodate what you need. So like I say, just we're just happy to be part of your business, and we're glad that things go right, and we're proud to be part of it.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So I think in conclusion of that, you know, without all of you, there would not be us. And we just want to thank you for the opportunity. And we're very fortunate to have grown like we have. And, you know, I just want to say once again, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thanks for tonight, spending some time on a Monday night to talk about this process. So in conclusion, I think you need to pay attention to your process from the very start, okay? Making sure we pay attention to the availability of parts from the beginning of the process and focusing on how we can move cars through the shop efficiently, as opposed to driving down the cost of a discount to an insurance company. It'll be much more beneficial to the vendor and also to you as the collision repair shop, okay? The time it takes to qualify parts, determine which part is best for the repair, will happen along the way, whether it's at the beginning of the process or at the end of the process, but regardless, it's going to happen, okay? So putting ourselves in the best possible position in the beginning will ensure the vehicle moves through the process efficiently. In other words, we're going to have a good parts procurement process. All right, so thank you. I think let's wrap this up now a little bit, and let's talk about some questions here, okay? We talked about a lot of different things in a very short time. I believe everyone has the access to a chat box, so I hope some people are monitoring the situation. And let's just see if we got any questions tonight.
I do have one.
Okay, so I hear we do have one question.
Shouldn't parts suppliers check for damaged parts before delivering them?
All right, so good question. Should parts suppliers check for damaged parts before delivering them? I can only speak to our operation and the way that it works. You know, we are sending out well over $100,000, $10,000 worth of parts in the morning. Okay, so in piece count wise, that could be well over 500 parts could be moving across our distribution floor. So it'd be very difficult for us to check every one of those. But if there are things like a box that's damaged, you know, that it looks like it's been through World War III, then I think we need to take time to put that aside and look at it. The other thing to keep in mind, just the reality of the situation, is we're not body men. Okay, it's very difficult for us to look at a part and maybe say, that's $100 to fix. All right, maybe we should fix it, maybe we shouldn't fix it, we need another part. So there's sometimes we go through that process to sending it to the customer to see what is the best situation. But I know we do our best wherever we can, but the simple volume of parts that we have to move through our distribution center on a daily basis, it would be impossible for us to check every single one of them. And guess what that volume's from, okay? It's from us having a good relationship with body shops, but it's also a volume that's required because of the margins that we're working in today, okay? We have to sell a lot of parts to a lot of different people in order to make the whole thing work. What other questions we got?
What are the manufacturers doing to educate the consumer on the use of OEM parts?
All right, so what is the manufacturer doing to educate customers on the use of OEM parts? My answer is pretty simple, probably very little, okay? I think this is an aspect that manufacturer wants their cake and they want to eat it too, all right? They want to sell all these parts and do all this stuff, but they're not really toting the line when we talk about parts that are requirements, like on lease vehicles, for instance. I mean, you can look at any manufacturer statement and they're going to tell you that OEM parts are required on a leased vehicle when it's turned back into the manufacturer. Okay, but when we talk about it in terms of a body shop and fixing car, a customer has no idea that that is the case at all. And if you talk to them about it, which I would all encourage you to do that, you're going to get a lot of like question marks and like, really? I don't understand. So a good question. I absolutely think that a manufacturer needs to do more to educate their customers on the importance of OEM parts. So that's all the questions we got in the moment. So we got to take a few more minutes here. Maybe we can just, if anyone else has any questions at all.
We got one Kahoot question.
And then I believe we got one Kahoot question left. So because we love Kahoot. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. We got one more Kahoot question. So if everyone can pick up their phones, and we'll go back to Kahoot one more time. And it is a poll question. All right, and that question is, what makes your body shop association have value? All right, we're all members of either the Kansas or Nebraska Auto Body Association. So what do you feel like that brings value to your association? So brotherhood, mentorship, legislation, or training. Which one of those four topics? In case you got logged out, it is Kahoot, KAHOOT.IT. The PIN number is 2633748 in the bottom right of your screen. So what makes your association valuable? About 10 seconds left. What makes your association valuable? All right, what are the answers? So it looks like our most popular answer is training. So I think that's something that Tony and James, they can kind of take a look at. for their associations, and really bring training back to them, I think is very important, along with all the other things, I think that, which is also a very important with that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap everything up. So thank you so much, everybody. Like I said, I'll be happy to answer any questions. You have my contact information, phone number, my email address, and I'll be happy to help you out any way we can. So for that, I will turn it back over to James and Tony. Thank you.
Hey, Mike, we got another question. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Yep.
How long do we expect to see back-ordered parts due to COVID?
Good question. Okay, so back ordered parts due to COVID. So typically a manufacturer will run on a 100-day turnaround. Okay, so 90 to 100 days they will put in part supply that they'll have in their warehouses. And what we're running into is a supplier issue when it comes to parts. So not necessarily, it's not a breakdown in the warehousing of the manufacturer, but where the part is being made. There's been a lot of COVID issues, and then that creates a supplier problem, because when someone cannot fulfill the demand, what they have to do is the manufacturer has to go out and find an alternative source for that. I believe that that's going to continue to happen throughout the rest of the year, probably well into the first quarter. We're going to have some of these issues, but despite all that, okay, and I might sound like a broken record, parts are more easily accessible today than they ever have been before. All right, if you don't believe me, look at your ARMS report and look at the rental times when it comes to a car that needs to be repaired. All right, look at that on the last quarter of 2020, look at it 2019, and then look at it maybe 5 years ago. So we got a lot going on. We got the GM bankruptcy. Okay, we went through all that. Now we got COVID concerns. So I don't want you to set repair plans 100% based on COVID. Okay, it is a known issue that we got to work through in the short term, but looking forward, let's put repair plans in place to move cars through your shop as effectively as possible. What other questions we got?
I just got one that says, how do we get insurance companies to value our time on trying to get a used part for our cars instead of a good new part? I'd like to start out with this one if you're okay.
Yeah, God, take it away.
So many times you order them and they're, hey, they're grade A, they're insurance quality, and by the time you get them, they're beat up pretty good, or they miss things. By the time there's cleanup and everything like that, it's just not conducive a lot of the time. I personally would rather put on a used part over aftermarket, but just the experiences I've had with used, it's not very good. We just don't have the best of luck ourselves. I'll let Mike answer from his side of it.
Well, I think that maybe getting the customer involved as well. So I've heard that you can have some positive experience with getting your customer involved and saying, hey, this particular insurance company's wanting to put a used part on this car. These are the reasons why we don't feel like this is the best way to go. However, I can work with my OEM parts provider and maybe we can get a new one put on it. So getting the customer involved, I think, is always a great idea when it comes to how to select parts and the challenges that you're having.
And that person said that they were talking a lot about condensers and radiators, and that's kind of a tough one just because those condensers and radiators are hard to get at I don't want to say a good price through OEM, but they're expensive. So if they're trying to put
they're very difficult to get. I mean, I would say, is the car under manufacturer warranty?
Yep, yeah. Also, if they're pushing for aftermarket, count the number of fins that are in that, the number of cooling rows that are in that. They're usually not the same. If you get an aftermarket or a used one, usually they have dented fins and things like that. I mean, there's little things you can do. Just depends on how far you want to push it.
And just the dry weight of the product in itself. Coming from the mechanical industry, one of the things I've noticed is that a quality OEM radiator a lot of times will weigh 50% more than an aftermarket one.
Yeah, why is that? I mean,
So-
it speaks quality.
We did get somebody that thanked you for having Jeff Heater instead of Jamie Kellogg. So that's a little feather in Heater's hat to go back with tomorrow. So go get him, Jeff.
Absolutely.
Well, we want to keep everyone spare them the expense of a Jamie Kellogg this late at night.
Yeah.
What other questions we got? Anything?
Tony, what do you got? I know Candy has said thank you very much. This has been awesome. I've got a lot of those throughout the night. Tony, you got anything?
Nope, I'm seeing the same thing, buddy.
Well, I'll tell you, we don't have all the answers, but I mean, collectively, the group, go ahead and lean on the vendor of your choice and lean maybe on your fellow body shop owner. And I think together we can all put ourselves in a better place.
Tony, do we get a winner for the poll or how does that work, buddy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we talked about that.
Mike, is there a winner? Is there a prize for this?
There isn't. The only question that we had that actually had point value associated with it was Tony's lip sync or karaoke, which was correctly answered at Motley Crue. I think that the prize should be Tony singing Motley Crue.
That
Yeah.
may have to happen next Monday.
Oh, I got to sing next Monday?
Well, I don't think we want to do this without a little practice.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely have to get the karaoke machine out.
Think for your moneymaker, buddy. Well, Mike and fellas, I want to thank you. I think that was good.
Thank you guys for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you. Thanks.
We're
Let me switch Dave back to presenter. All right, there we have it. So Mike and the Woodhouse team, guys, thank you very much for spending your evening with us tonight. It was a fantastic presentation, and hopefully everybody took a ton away from it. And James, I'll send it back over to you to wrap us up, buddy.
next week we have Mr. Mark Olson from BECO. He is going to be talking about generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP. That is something I think a lot of shop owners struggle with, and hopefully this helps everybody. And then after that, we have Christmas, and then we're going to kick into the new year. We have great topics next year. And as always, if you do not know, if you got any ideas of what you want the future presentations to be, please email us and we'll get on it for you. We want to bring value to everybody. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.